Hey everyone, Ivy Gaming here, and today we're playing Dragonheir Silent Gods. For today's video, we're going to talk about fighting the Abbyssolossus, and there's a lot of misconceptions regarding battling this boss that I've heard, and yeah, I just want to point out some mistakes that you're probably making. Today's video is sponsored by Dragonheir Silent Gods, my favorite sponsor because it's my favorite game that I've played in a long time. Be sure to join us for Season 3, Dive Deep, Battle Peak. There's a ton of new heroes, new bosses, and lots to explore. Be sure to download via Android, iOS, Mac, PC, Steam, or Epic Games if you haven't already, and use the currently working promo codes. Alright, so first of all, I'm not gonna claim to be an expert at min-maxing. I'm not. That's not my forte. I try, and I learn, and I absorb. And yeah, I'm trying to give this video as kind of a what not to do and a what to do based on all the feedback I'm hearing from the community, based on my own personal testing, which I did do some interesting tests personally, actually, for once. Just kidding. I've been so busy. Testing has not exactly been my forte either, because ain't nobody got time for that. But yeah, this video is going to be a mixture of tips and tricks versus the Abbyssolossus to maximize your damage, mistakes you could be making based on things other content creators have said, and hopefully this helps you guys improve your teams or prepare for it if you haven't got there yet. Now, of course, as a content creator, I'm 100% just as guilty of making mistakes or testing something, it seems correct, and then you realize you were a little bit wrong, or hearing one person say something and then just assuming it's true, but then realizing later they were wrong. So with that in mind, I'm sure I could slip up myself or say something slightly wrong here too, but hey, at the end of the day, none of us are perfect. We're all trying, and we're all learning together as a community. So if you guys have any special tips versus the Abbyssolossus, put them in the comments below to help each other out. So let's get to it. My first tip versus this boss. Gotta show the fun animation at least once. They did a really good job with the graphics. Alright, for real. Tip number 1. Emperor gear works. But there's a catch. So here I have Erich. Oops, missing a glove. Let me load in my actual gear. So let me load in. This is my Emperor team. I did more damage with this team than I did with the other. I do have better gear, but I did a simple test with Erich and Cinderella. So Emperor gear does work better than aerial gear. Of course, depending on your gear. If you have much better aerial gear, obviously that's going to make a difference, right? If you have much better. But all things considered, let me show you this test right here. Alright, Erich here, his basic attacks are doing 8877 without no attack penalty, no other things affecting him. Alright, let's see the ultimate. 15314, right? 15314. You could see that. Now let's do it again, just for consistency's sake. You saw the 15314 were multiple of those numbers. 15,000 damage is what I mean. So again, 8877, that's his basic attack. But when he crits with his ultimate, with these balls and procs, it's going to be, you're going to see 15314 3 times in a row there. See that? That was good. That was better than the other ones. That means he procced his wild as well. So let's go ahead now and bring in Cinderella. Alright, attack penalties on the boss. Erich is going to pop his ultimate. And 17325. You saw that number 3 times in a row. 17325. That's the same. So we went from 15,304 to 17,000 and change. So that was our simple test to show that Emperor Set is proccing as long as you have attack penalty, the big version, on the boss. So it does work. If you have good Emperor gear for your heroes, go ahead and use it. Don't be shy. It actually does work against the boss, but you need attack penalty up on the boss for sure. All right, tip number 2 is that recharging speed penalty does not hinder your performance. So recharging speed penalty here reduces recharging speed by 30%. This is a concern, of course, if you don't want to mess up your speed tune, right? So I was told that a content creator was telling people not to use heroes with recharging speed penalty. I have no idea if they have since told people otherwise. They might have corrected their statement. I don't know, but that is wrong. So the boss actually has immunities. The boss is immune to ultimate down effects. That does include recharge speed penalty. So the boss does not take any effect by this. We did have some people in my Discord go ahead and test that as well. It does not affect your timings. So if you set timings and you have someone in your team that is doing ultimate energy reduction, aka recharging speed penalty, or just the straight up reduction, it's not going to hurt because it's not going to work because the boss is immune to it. So tip number 2, it's okay to use your Rose, use whoever you want that has recharging speed penalty. It's fine. All right, and tip number 3 is you do not have to have a hero that buffs before the boss does their ultimate. You do not need it. So I'm seeing lots of people insisting that it's necessary to put a buffer at 30.5 seconds. But the boss actually procs their ultimate energy reduction here at 30.6. So the thought is when the boss, when hitting enemies without buffs, it reduces their ultimate energy. So you want to prevent that, right? Wrong. You don't need to because you can just use your ultimates right before that happens. And then it doesn't matter if the boss reduces your ultimate energy if you just used your ultimates anyway. All of these heroes are going to have ultimates that recharge within 30 seconds just fine. So if you get a teeny tiny bit of ultimate energy reduced for a half second after you use your ultimate, who cares? Because you just used your ultimates. So you do not need to worry about finding the right support like a Quarion or whatever. You don't need that at all. It is completely unnecessary and a waste of space. You should have another DPS in there instead. So that goes on to my tip number 4, actually. You can use only one support, one healer. In my case, I have Cinderella. He's amazing. So you do not need to have multiple healers, multiple buffers, whatever, if you have a good enough support. So you're going to see here, my burn team has only Garius. Garius and a Gatekeeper staff. This one has Cinderella with the organ pipe. So he doesn't even have the Gatekeeper staff on to give shields, and he's still good enough. Ice Blast, I have only Ogak. Frost, I have only Furboth. So you can definitely get away with it. Dauntless, I have only Tauren. And here Acilia can be the, as I hit my microphone, Acilia can be the only one as well, but you definitely need to have other boosts to her you need a lot of skill haste on her if you want to have her be the only one. Some other people that can heal and be the only one, I know for sure, let's find her. Actually, I didn't build her this season. So there is Thea, the one with IA. She is a necrotic, so Thea can be the only healer, especially if you're using an all-ranged team. But even if she's not all-ranged, she still does heal as well. That she'll heal the ally with the lowest HP. But in some of these cases, it's best to have her plus someone else in a Mona Lisa set. So you're just going to want to have someone else to help. So I think, let's see here. Okay, I didn't do that for this one. Did I do that for this one? No. Yeah, Tauren is my only healer, but he's also in a Mona Lisa set. That's going to be something that helps. Plus, obviously, using these chests that give extra healing can be really, really helpful too. Ideally, you'd want an enlightenment one for Tauren or for Thea, but there's a lot of heroes that could actually perform that role. If you have Finja, the bride, she can do it as well. So I'm pretty sure, is it Jillian? I know a lot of people are using her as well. But yeah, you can use just one support. You don't need two if you have some of the stronger options. All right, another thing that a lot of people are doing wrong, or I'm hearing described, is spacing out the ultimates. So every time the boss does, let's see, let's go back to the main page. Actually, can I see? I could see it here. The boss does this damage reduction every time you use a skill. So if you use all your ultimates at once, he's going to stack up a whole bunch, right? But that doesn't mean you have to stagger in between every single boss skill. So what happens is you use your skill and then the boss uses their skill and then all those stacks are gone. And then after that, in between each skill, there's a new set of stacks of damage reduction. When the monster casts a skill, he resets it. So at 30 seconds, he resets it. So here's an example. In my team right now, Flora and Erich go before the boss procs his skill at 29, and so does Thea. Thea is this Thea the wild one, as I call her. She is going to go with Witch's Remains. She's my Witch's Remains. So she actually goes before the boss does the skill. So I have Tunnelnon going afterward. And actually, the good part is Erich doesn't actually hit for a little bit of a delay, so he's actually going to be after 30 seconds when his hits make contact as well. So there's going to be a new stack of the debuffs. So Erich is actually going to go right before Tunnelnon goes with only one stack or no stacks of the debuff. Then Tunnelnon's going to go with a stack up, unfortunately. It's kind of hard because people are going to be popping their battle skills and it is going to affect it. But this is the most optimal thing to do, is make your least important DPS, or the one that's doing Witch's Remains, make them go before 30 seconds. Then your best DPS should go at 30 seconds or just soon after. I have Tunnelnon going at 30.299, aka 30.3. Tunnelnon has a buff for herself, so I want her to use that buff. That's our next tip. So she's the first one to go, or she's going to be the second one to go in this case. Erich is actually going to be the first one to go, because I actually do have Erich built even better than my Tunnelnon, so it's fine for this one. Let me see if I can give a different example, though. Like, alright, so this team, I'm going to have Karf be the one that goes at 29 seconds, because he's in Witch's Remains. So after that, the other people would go on the other half of the other set of the boss's skills, so that way they are getting a new stack of the defense or damage reduction, right? That makes sense, right? All right, now the next one, that was tip number 5. Tip number 6 is, if you have a team that has buffs, it's 30.3 that you can place that buffer. So this team does not, I don't have to worry about it, right? This team does, I do have to worry about it. So in this case, Ogak is there for the support. I'm not even worried about the buff per se, but Zorak puts a buff up on all Ice Blast allies. If you want the buffs to land, they need to go at 30.3. Oops. It does, the game changes it to 30.2999, or some of these to 3999, so don't mind that. It's what the game automatically does. But 30.3 is the magic number. I have seen a post in the Discord that's being shared that says 30.4. That's not correct. 30.3 is fine. This is when the buff prohibition wears off. So you can see here the buff prohibition on this skill is placed at 18 seconds. It lasts for 20 seconds. It's 28 seconds. But it's actually not an immediate placement, it's a couple seconds later, so hence the 30.3 is when it has officially dropped off after being up for 10 seconds. So you can use your buffers at 30.3, and then the other heroes after them, like Bloodin here is going after, and then Garthen. To be fair, this is Ice Blast, so it's a little bit less important. I think a better example might be the burn heroes here, where I have Durham does attack up and crit up to all burn allies, so he's at 30.3, and then after him, Arachis is going to go. Karf is my witch's remains, so Karf is, yeah, before them in this case, but that is my setup there. You want to squeeze out all of the timings you can and all the skills you can in a very short window. So these timings really do matter. And some heroes are going to have delays on when they actually do their skill, so keep that in mind. Like Erich, he takes a second before he actually has the fireballs hit. So even though I have him at like 29, when he actually hits, the defense penalty from the other hero like Thea is going to be up. So that's something to think about as well. Like depending on your heroes or animations, just watch them at the end of the day and make sure they're going in the right order that you think they should be going. All right, and then tip number 7, trying to YOLO. If you are trying to or mistake number 7, I should say. Mistake number 7 is if you're trying to YOLO, you're going to fail. The timings are just important. So you can get away with YOLOing some people, like sure, okay, Ice Blast, YOLOing Garthen. Garthen, it's more, everything's about their battle skills anyway, so it's fine. It's not a big deal to just use her ultimate at just the right time. That's less important, honestly. It's more about the battle skill, but Garthen is someone who's a good example. She has a 16-second recharge time. So if you can get her down with just a little bit of skill haste, hopefully, I mean, it does take some good gear, but if you have some good rolls and you get her down to a 15-second timer, then, you know, you can have her go twice with her ultimate and time out with the rest of the people for the final hit, making sure she has defense penalty for the ultimate as well. But Ice Blast, you can kind of get away with it being a little bit sloppy. Like mine did 112 damage with her on full YOLO. But overall, YOLOing is just not going to happen. Even on the meh teams that I built, you still have to make people go in the right order. Like if she's my witch's remains, and then having other people go afterward, yeah, that's kind of what you got to do. You got to have them go afterward. So timings, again, timings being important. So if you have a buff, they need to go at 30.3, 30.4, and 30.5. So as we said before, you don't need to have a buffer, right? But the boss does their last skill here with the ultimate energy reduction at 30.6. So you want to make sure all of your heroes go 30.6. So the time, I guess the window for your timings is 29 for someone who doesn't have, or not worried about the buffs, or is setting up for the other people to do the more damage, which really we're just setting up her vortex, right? And that way we could take advantage of the procs from Thea as well for wild. So we're setting up with the 29, and then do you want to have your last damage dealer go no later than 30.5. Oops. 30.5. That's the latest you want to go, because at 30.6 is when the boss actually does that skill. So anytime between 30.3 and 30.5 for when you have the buff in mind, right? So that's how that works. 30.3 to 30.5 or 29 to 30.5 is the range you want to have all your DPS go. You can get away with the supports mostly at full YOLO. Just be really careful when it comes to the supports. So this is our final tip or mistake not to make. Make sure that you're not proccing your shields or heals at exactly when this is happening. You probably don't need to manual Garius, or sorry, put timers for Garius or Cinerelle. They seem to do just fine on full auto. But watch it. If you are actually dying and not surviving the whole battle, check. If people are dying, watch and see if you need to set up timers, because healing prohibition or reduction and shield prohibition at this mark here could just ruin your whole run. So you don't want that to prevent you from healing when your hero does their most important healing skill. You don't want to have this up, ideally. It can happen every once in a while, depending on who your healer is and if they have heals on their battle skill and stuff as well. But keep that in mind too. Alright, and that's all for today's video. Hope these tips were helpful. Hopefully some of these mistakes you can avoid. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Be sure to download via Android, iOS, Mac, PC, Steam, or Epic Games if you haven't already. And thanks again to Dragonheir Silent Gods for sponsoring today's video.